Okay, here's a look at our tensioning roller and our idler pulley for our timing belt, and we're going to remove this tensioning roller, and it's going to require a 14mm socket, and then we'll be able to get out to our timing belt. Okay, we're going to loosen this one too while we're at it. You can always just cut the timing belt too if you're replacing it, for sure. That way it will relieve tension on this bolt and you can take it out easier. Okay, there we go. Okay, as you can see, there's a spring back here that helps with applying proper tension for your belt, so you don't want to lose this just in case your new one doesn't come with one. Okay, now here comes our timing belt, and here's our idler pulley. Okay, next on the right side of the radiator towards the lower side on the passenger side, there's going to be a drain valve you need to turn. Make sure before you do that you've already opened your radiator cap so there's pressure to push this coolant out. Okay, next it's time to remove our water pump, which is held in by, looks like 6 12mm bolts, 4 of which you can get from the top and the other 2 you're probably going to have to get from the bottom. Okay, there's actually 7 bolts, and this one right here is a 10mm bolt. Okay, and keep track of the size of these bolts because some of them might be different. Also make sure you have a catch pan underneath ready, okay, because as you're loosening and when you take off this water pump, water coolant is going to come rushing out probably. Okay, and you know what, if you have the right extensions and sockets, all these bolts are accessible from up top, which makes life easier. Okay, and now we should be able to just get our water pump out of here. Alright, there we go. Okay, and here's a look at our water pump we just took out, and as you can see, the entire gasket came off with the water pump. I don't know if they used any RTV silicone on that side or whatnot, but I'm not going to use it. I'm really happy to see that it all came off as one piece. This is going to make our cleanup pretty much as quick as it can possibly be. We can just go quickly over, make sure all the gasket has come off with the old water pump, and then just clean it up and slap our new water pump back on there. Okay, next, while we're cleaning up or inspecting this the mating surface on the engine side, I like to just put some RTV silicone around the edges, right on the corners where the bolt holes are. I don't like to put RTV silicone all over it. I just use it to keep this in place while I go to put it back on. Some people like to use RTV silicone. I'm not a big fan of. I've never felt the use for it, and I've never had any problems. So yeah, next we just line up our gasket, make sure all the bolt holes are accessible. It's a good idea to let this sit for like 30 minutes if you have the luxury of that much time, but this will tack up and it will stick on there enough for you to put it back on the engine side. Okay, next you want to get these bolts started by hand, and you want to go from the center out. Okay, so we're gonna put this one, we're gonna put this one, 10mm, and one on the bottom, and then slowly work our way out. We're gonna hand tighten them first, then we'll torque him down, going in the same pattern. Okay. And the torque spec for these is 17 foot-pounds for all these water pump bolts. Okay. Next what you want to do is get some coolant in the system. Make sure you've closed that drain valve on your radiator, and then by squeezing the upper and lower radiator hoses, you can force air out and coolant in. And then watch for leaks. Make sure you're not leaking anywhere from around the water pump. Make sure the water pump pulley can turn, and then if you got no leaks, you can go on to the next step. Next we'll install our timing belt idler pulley. And these get torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. Next we're going to install our tensioner pulley, making sure that spring is properly seated inside of the tensioner pulley, and this one, making sure this one goes right exactly in that hole where it's supposed to be. It's crucial you get this spring in the hole it's supposed to be in. And the way you can double check to make sure that spring is properly in its hole is to just barely loosen this bolt and then push back on this on this side, and if it comes back, it means it's properly seated. But also in anticipation for our timing bolt installation, we're gonna push this back and lock this bolt so we have more space here when we go to put on our timing bolts next. Okay, so before we put on our timing belts, we're gonna double check on our timing marks, make sure they haven't moved. As you can see, they actually have moved a little bit, both these camshaft gears. So we're gonna line them back up, being very gentle and moving very slowly, because these are spring loaded and you don't want them to pop into into a different position. Okay, and there's also a notch on your crankshaft gear and a pointer on the block side that you need to also make sure it's still lined up. Okay, next it's time to start fitting in our timing belt. What I like to do first, which is usually the correct way actually, is to first feed it around the crankshaft, make sure it's properly seated, and I would like to get something like a handle of a screwdriver or my pick in this case, and just stick it underneath on this side, because then it doesn't move. And then next we're going to go back up and put it around our idler pulley, then our exhaust camshaft gear, then the intake camshaft gear, and come back and put it around the tensioner pulley. Okay, and you want to be careful how much you tug on this while you're trying to put it around this idler pulley, because you don't want the crankshaft to move. Okay, it doesn't have to be a whole lot. So there, we got it around the idler pulley, and next we're going to put it around this camshaft, exhaust camshaft gear. But this thing has moved again, so I'm just going to move it back. I mean, it's literally maybe like an eighth of an inch, but that eighth of an inch keeps us away from putting this in the right spot. So here we go, now it's locked in. Okay, now we go put it on our camshaft gear, our intake camshaft gear on this side. Okay, and it has also moved on the intake side, just about an eighth of an inch probably. So we will adjust this too, and this side has moved more actually. It's what you can do is actually get some zip ties around these ready, and when you put it on this side and tie it down with the zip tie, so then you can your hand is free to put it around the intake camshaft gear. Okay, and before things move in any further, I'm gonna slip this on our tensioner pulley if I can. Okay. Okay, you know what, folks? It's just going to be really hard to get this timing belt in there with this spring on there. Okay, so we're just going to take this spring out, and then we'll do the timing belt tension manually ourselves. Okay, so the tension is back in without the spring, and we're going to leave it loose a little bit so we can push it back and create enough slack when it's time to put that timing belt around it. Okay, so what we're going to do is get our timing belt around both the tensioner and the idler pulley. Then we'll bring it back up and get it around this exhaust camshaft first. And as you can see, I have zip ties ready, because these camshafts, they tend to move a little bit, so we will adjust them, get the timing belt on, then we'll tie it down, then we will do the same thing for the intake. Okay, and you want to be careful how much you pull on this belt, because this crankshaft is a light one, it's a small one, and it will easily move. Okay, so after it's around both the idler and the tensioner, we'll come back up here, and then we'll have to do some minor adjusting to this camshaft gear, because it has moved a little bit. And then we'll get our timing belts over it, make sure there's no slack. Okay, and then once we're sure we got all the slack out before we got it over it, we'll get our zip tie and tie this down. Okay, now we'll do the same thing for our intake camshaft gear. Okay, this one has moved too, so we'll just adjust it. And now let's see if we can get this on here. Okay, that was a tight fit, but we got it on. Actually, we don't have to tie this down, because this is the last piece of the puzzle, or the last component we're putting the timing belts over. Now we do a quick check, make sure the timing marks haven't moved on our crankshaft gear, And this exhaust gear, this one is already still in place. Okay. Okay, and as far as how we're gonna tension this timing belt manually, well, you gotta get an Allen key, 5mm Allen key in here, turn this clockwise to apply tension. Let's say you apply a moderate amount of pressure on this, let's say foot-pounds, I'm sorry, in foot-pounds it would be 15 foot-pounds of pressure, and then you find a way to tighten this bolt down with this thing in there, and that will keep it in place for us to then again rotate the engine and then test for tension also. Okay, next we'll rotate the engine 2 full rotations on the crankshaft side and then line up our marks on this one and the marks on both the intake and the exhaust camshaft gears, paying attention to make sure the E is up on the exhaust side and its I is on the intake side, okay? Okay, so I just rotated the engine and all our marks line up. Marks on our exhaust and our camshaft gear line up. And also that mark on the crankshaft gear lines up as well. And the way you check for proper tension on this belt is that you get a piece of straight edge and place it on the camshaft gears. Then you apply about 22 foot-pounds of pressure, which is not a whole lot, and then see how much that belt travels downwards. It should be just under ½ an inch. As you can see, this is pretty tight, so I'm actually gonna just slightly loosen that tensioner, push it back, and then rotate the engine 2 full rotations and then check it again, okay? Okay, that's a lot better. I think I'm gonna just stick with that, okay? All right, next we're gonna torque this bolt for this tensioner pulley. I'm gonna torque it down to 38 foot-pounds, just gonna go a little more than what's in the book. Okay, so I won't bore you with the rest. What you want to do next is basically just a reversal removal. Get your lower timing belt cover on, get that bracket for your motor mount on, then you know, attach that bracket to the alternator, get your motor mount in, upper timing belt cover, all that good stuff. So I'll just cut to the end. Oh, one thing you don't want to forget is get your after you get all your timing belt covers on, to get the pulley for the water pump on, hand tighten it first. And after you get the belt on that pulley, to remember to tighten those bolts by your ratchet, okay? Okay, something you need to pay attention to is that when you go to put this back cover for your harmonic balancer, to line this up, this piece up, this notch up with the key that's in the crankshaft, okay? Same thing for your harmonic balancer. You want to line that up with the key, okay? Okay, now I just got finished putting everything back together. Now got some more coolant in there. Now we're just gonna start the car. See how it turns out. Okay, as you can see, everything is running pretty smooth. No noisy builds, no leaks, no check engine lights. So yeah, we're just gonna finish up bleeding the cooling system by adding coolant as needed. Make sure you've turned your heater on. And then you want to do this until your cooling fans come on and off twice, and then you should have properly you know, flushed any air out of your cooling system, okay? So yeah, I hope this video helps you out there. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more like it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.